So, I'm going to make a home for some of my isopods that I just got today. They are super adorable. You may know them as Roly Polys or sobugs or wood lice. These are Armadillidium Maculatum Zebras. They have zebra stripes. They're really cute. Let's see if I can show you. I just got these mailed to me today. Let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to see those. Often when you go outside, you can find Roly Polys, and this is a relative of the ones you find outside. Most of the ones that they sell for pets don't roll up, but these ones do. This family does. They're really cute. They're fairly popular. They're one of the most popular types because they're pretty and they stand out. And who doesn't love a roly poly? Oh. See, he's already trying to roll a little. He's not scared enough to really roll, but. So these are considered one of the beginner but slightly harder than beginner types of isopods because they need it dry but not too dry. All isopods need it kind of humid because they are crustaceans, not bugs. And they have gills, not lungs. So I've got here some organic potting soil. Pour a whole bunch in there. So most people do their isopods in tubs, which, cool. They do pretty good in it. It's easy to keep humidity. But I kind of want to be able to see them. Not that you're going to see them a ton, because isopods are pretty secretive. But if they are out, I'd like to be able to look through the glass at them. So, this is a 10-gallon aquarium, which is definitely not what I wanted. I have some 5 gallons that I was going to use, but I couldn't find them, so I have this laying around, and so this is what I'm going to use. Hey, it saves me rehoming them in the future when I get way too many, and they keep reproducing. Yes, Minta. No, it's not. You're not going to dig in this. She loves to jump in aquariums and roll in the dirt, which did not work out great when I had toads. And she figured out a way to lift the lid off. So, the more substrate, the better with anything like this. Because if you have a bunch of substrate, it doesn't dry out really fast. If you have a small container with shallow substrate, it's going to dry out, and then the isopods are going to die. So, good compost is important. I don't have any right now, but I'm using organic potting soil. Organic because if it has chemicals to kill bugs, it might just kill your isopods too, because a lot of gardeners don't like isopods. Some people do worm castings, which again I don't have any right now. I did hear that a good component is alder pellets. They're used for barbecues, or oak pellets. No, without chemicals, they're just pellets of wood, and soak those, let it degrade into like sawdust, and that works pretty well in there. Or sawdust that you know is from safe places, but just pay attention to where you get your supplies, because I got this at the garden center and there's a chance there could be overspray, but it's a small enough chance I think it's okay. But you never know. If the neighbor sprays chemicals and it goes over onto your lawn, then if you take dirt from that area, you're going to kill your isopods, which is kind of pointless. So just pay attention where you get stuff. But they can live in kind of whatever good soil. This is not the greatest, but it's okay. And another thing is they need, isopods eat wood, dead and dying wood, and dead leaves. This is just junk from the yard at the place we used to live. Sadly, the place we live now does not have good trees in the back. So this is all I have for right now until I ordered online some, I think, live oak leaves, and then also maybe some magnolia leaves. I can't remember what I ordered. And then I also ordered some cork, because they really like to live on cork, and cork doesn't degrade very quick, so they can live on it for a long time. So the more, oh, it's a rock. I think it's a rock. Oh, no, it's just really hard. It's like a chunk of wood. The more leaves, the better, because they have to eat something, and this is not nearly enough. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to supplement with, this is Aspen Bedding from a snake, and it's just been hanging around because I tend not to throw things away that I might need to use. And it's shaved wood, so it'll work pretty well. I can't use all of this stuff because I've got to do a few more of these. But mix it together. Yeah. So the more the better. Sadly, I use pellets all the time, and I have a ton of sawdust because that's what I use for the rabbit's litter box and sometimes for the cats. But I can't use those because they're pine. Should never use pine with most animals because as it degrades, it'll release toxic fumes, and also there'll be like sap issues with some of the woods. So try to go with hardwoods, things like oak and alder, cottonwood, and you can just pick up wood and leaves outside. But you should boil them before using them, because if there's bugs that aren't good on the leaves, you don't want it to infest your terrarium. I'm going to put a small piece of charcoal as well, because I'm going to put some some springtails in here, and the springtails like the charcoal. And a lot of people will break up some charcoal and throw in there to keep it nice and sweet smelling, but it's kind of hard to break. You have to hit it with a hammer if you get the big chunks. This was lumped charcoal used for barbecues, but it's kind of hard to find that isn't chemicalized, because they like to spray chemicals on everything. That's not working. Oh, there we go. Let's hope that's still aimed there. So the richer you can make the substrate, the better off you are. I'm also going to put sphagnum moss. This is just long sphagnum moss that I got from Josh's Frogs a long time ago. You can use this. I got it to use in the humid hide for my snake and also for my geckos. But it works pretty good for the isopods because they like a humid area too. This is another one of those things that's still in shipment. So I'll add more later. So what happens is isopods need it humid, but they don't need it too humid. And if it's way too humid, they'll die. If it's not humid enough, they'll die. So the solution is just to make a humidity gradient. Make this the humid side and spray. You always spray the water there, and you just keep that side damp. Depending on where you are, changes how much you need to do this. I'm in Reno, Nevada, which is really high and dry, so I'll probably have to do this pretty often. But then, if they want to be wetter, they just go over there. If they want to be drier, they come over a little further. So I'm going to dampen this a little more than I would normally, because that soil is pretty dry. You don't want the soil to be dripping if you take a handful, but you also don't want it to be completely flaky. You want it to hold its shape a little. But it's easy enough to just make this side humid and this side not, and then say they want it semi-humid, they just come here. Pretty easy. And a way for them to go from area to area is this. It's an egg crate, and I just cut it, and so they can use it as a little highway. Humidity highway. Go from the damp area to the dry. Because sometimes they don't like to walk across the substrate a lot. They like to be up on wood. Preferably, I would have a big log in here for this. Big decaying log. But I don't have that right now. So this will work. You can also use toilet paper tubes. Bugs like toilet paper tubes. They're nice and hidden. Gives them privacy. I have one of these laying around, so it's just a wood log from probably a gecko or something. I like this one because it's kind of rustic. And you can add that. I bet they'd like to lay on that. And you just do whatever. I'm also going to add a food bowl. So this is something that's debatable. Something to put food on. A lot of people say that the babies won't be able to get up in this, or they won't learn where the food is, and so they'll go hungry and they won't grow as fast. But I worry about mold, and having food on the substrate for the isopods means it might go moldy and it might contaminate the whole colony. I'm going to put springtails in, so that's unlikely, but I just will feel better having a nice dish in there, and I think it'll help keep stuff from getting lost. Oh, I forgot. I've got this stuff called Bioactive Booster. It is from Josh's Frogs, and it's supposed to be beneficial bacteria that help cycle things and make it turn nice and comfortable for microfauna and whatnot. It's kind of handy. It's just a light dust though, and you probably want to make sure you don't breathe it in, because I don't know, fungi spores don't seem like the best thing to breathe in, and that's really lightweight. And just water that into the ground a little. You may see mushrooms or stuff like that start to grow, and that's kind of normal. It just depends on how much humidity is in there. You're replicating nature, and stuff like that happens in nature. I'm going to put calcium. You can also do eggshells, crush them up. If you just take clean dried eggshells and put them in a plastic bag, you can crush them pretty fine. You can also use kettlebone for birds, which I'm going to put a chunk of this in when I have a chance, but right now I'm short. So I'm just going to use the calcium powder I used for my reptiles. You can also use oyster shell, like you use for chickens. And so you just put a little pile of that in there, and they'll just come and eat it. When I see it disappear, I know I'll need to put some more. This is nutritional yeast, which, since I'm putting I keep doing that. Since I'm putting springtails in, I'm going to put a little bit of this. Springtails like to eat this. I'm going to put it on their charcoal. And this is fish flakes, which I would prefer fish pellets, but this is what I have. And one thing that people don't realize about isopods a lot of times is they need a lot of protein. And if you don't give them protein, they are going to eat whatever's in the cage with them that gives them protein. So fish flakes are a good thing. Because you don't want them, if you add them in with dart frogs or small invertebrates or things like that, you don't want them to eat them. And don't put a ton of food if you're just starting. If you have 12 tiny animals, they're not going to eat a lot. You can put a piece of squash, a piece of carrot, most semi-soft vegetables. I wouldn't put things like iceberg lettuce where it's really watery, but squash is really popular. Something you use with all the zucchini squash that you get in the garden. Put the springtails. This is a colony I got off of Craigslist the other day, and it's pretty good. I think it's already grown, and I just had it like a week. So one way to add springtails is just to pour it out. Just pour some out. Another way is to take a chunk of charcoal and tap, 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 and they fall right in. You can also blow them in. So, one thing that I didn't mention is when you spray these down, or anytime you use water in this, you should always use dechlorinated water, because chlorine kills things, and you probably don't want to potentially damage your beds. And looks like it's time for the isopods. Hello, guys. That one's all flipped upside down. Poor little guy. Here you go. There you go. Hey. Put them over in the damp area. And hopefully they'll reproduce. They really are a cute isopod. Kind of little, but pretty cute. So one thing about using a 10-gallon for these guys is that there may not be adequate ventilation. Most people recommend cross ventilation, which is ventilation coming from one side to the other so it can blow out any icky air so it doesn't go stagnant. But I'm hoping the 10-gallon allows enough airflow. But we don't want too much airflow. So what I've got is a screen lid. This is just a wire screen lid that you get for reptiles. And what I did was I hot glued in some weed block fabric. and there's teeny tiny holes, I don't know if you can see, and those let air through. But it should keep out things like fungus gnats, which can infiltrate your colony. And then I put some saran wrap on this to keep more of the humidity in, because that was a lot of airflow. We don't want too much airflow. Something I may go back in and do is take some Vaseline and coat the sides, like inside, right up here, just a ring of Vaseline, and that'll keep anything from crawling out, because isopods can't crawl up glass, but they can crawl up the silicone seals, and there's a potential they can get out that way. I don't think the 15 I put in there are gonna be trying to escape immediately, because why would they? But if I get enough numbers, they may start feeling competitive and crowded, then they might do that. For now, this is fine. And there you go. Nice little isopod container. You can also take construction paper or just typing paper and coat one side or 3 sides to make it a little darker, make it look better. I might do that in the future. For now, this is fine. Yeah, that's the zebra Roly Polys. Hopefully they'll do well. I'll update in the future, and watch out for the other videos on the isopods, because I bought several different types. So check back later for those, and don't forget to like the video. Thanks.